Hello everyone. Thank you for watching the video. Wishing you all good health and peace. Ju-han snapped awake as her mother's cough tore through the hospital room. A harsh, rattling sound that hit her like a punch. No time to linger. She grabbed a damp cloth and wiped her mother's face, hands trembling but careful, terrified of breaking her fragile frame. Her mother lay there, pale as death, eyes dim, barely flickering with life. Ju-han scooped up a spoonful of milk, feeding her slowly, watching those cracked lips struggle, her chest tightening with every shallow breath. She finished, then bolted to the doctor's office, slipping into the corner, heart hammering as she waited. The doctor flipped the chart, voice flat. "It's bad. Treatment's expensive." The words slammed into her, her legs buckled, mind reeling. Money? She had nothing, just a few crumpled bills spilling from her pocket like a taunt. She clenched her jaw, stormed back to clean her mother again. Each swipe of the cloth a silent promise to fight. Then she ran to the diner nearby, dishes clanging, the air thick with rice and the owner's sharp yells. Head down, she scrubbed tables, washed plates, swept floors. Sweat soaked her ragged shirt, sticking to her bony back. The pitiful pay barely filled her palm, but she tucked it away, hands shaking. Enough for milk, a bit of rice for her baby, that's it. Exhausted, she dragged herself to the kind woman's house, the one who'd once pulled her from the brink. Hearing about her mother, the woman snatched her keys, voice sharp. "Get on, I'm taking you there now." The motorcycle roared down the red dust road, wind whipping her face, but her heart blazed, aching to reach her mother's side. Life never cut her a break. While she slaved at the diner, her stepfather, the brute who'd battered her as a kid, turning her youth into hell, showed up at the hospital. He demanded her mother, his hulking figure and liquor-stained face chilling her to the bone. She walked in, saw her mother on the bed, clutching his hand, eyes heavy with guilt as they met hers. Words failed. His growl claimed her mother as his, and she stood there, fists balled, tears rising but forced back. She wanted to scream, to hold her mother tight, but with no cash, no power, and her mother too frail to fight, she was helpless. He hauled her mother out, her silhouette fading beyond the door, leaving Ju-han rooted, heart in shards. Back at the crumbling shack, wind howled through the cracks. She ached for her mother, nearly collapsing, but her baby's hungry wail yanked her upright. Wiping her face, she steeled herself. No work, no survival. She grabbed a machete and charged to the landowner's garden. The old man hacked at weeds, his bent back glistening under the brutal sun. She set her baby in a hammock, the little one playing with dry leaves, wide eyes tracking her. She swung her blade, weeds snapping, the swish-swish echoing her pounding pulse. Sweat burned her eyes, but she kept going, hands relentless, mind fixed on her mother, days when she could hold her without dread. The old man glanced over, smiling gently. "You're strong, working faster than me." She nodded, lips tight, blade slashing. Each cut a pledge to endure. Done, she cradled her baby home, the little one dozing in her arms, soft breaths warming her neck. She laid the child in the cradle, then tackled the shack. It was a wreck, trembling in the wind, leaking in the rain. She dug dirt, drove posts, chopped bamboo, hands bleeding but ignored. Mid-cut, a militiaman appeared, tall, sun-darkened, papers in hand. He'd come with forms for her child, voice steady and kind. Seeing the shack's ruin and her skinny baby, he froze, then silently rolled up his sleeves. He hoed the yard, thumping the earth, cleared wood scraps, hauled bamboo with her from the forest. They sawed and tied, sweat streaked his faded shirt. Her hair clung wet, hands throbbing but unyielding. Finished, they slumped under a tree, breaths ragged. He pulled 2 dragon fruits from his pocket, offering one, voice soft. "Take it, rest a bit." She bit in, the cool sweetness easing her weariness. Wind rustled, her baby yawned in the cradle, a rare peace settling over her. He stood, tapped her shoulder. "Come, I'll ride you to the school, sort the papers for the little one." The bike growled to life, she sat behind, hands light on his shirt, wind brushing her face, lifting her spirit. He spoke of village life, voice genuine. She nodded, quiet. A flicker of light pierced her darkness. Was he real or scheming? She didn't know, but for once she wasn't alone in the storm. Days later, she stood in the shack, staring at the patched walls. Her mother's absence gnawed at her, a hollow ache that wouldn't quit. She'd begged the hospital to keep her longer, but her stepfather's shadow loomed too large. Now she had to move. Her baby needed food, the shack needed fixing, and her own will needed fuel. She headed back to the diner, scraping by on tips and grit. She scrubbed tables until her hands cracked, every dime going to her child's rice and her mother's milk. The kind woman became her lifeline, driving her to the hospital when hope ran thin. Her stepfather's return shattered her fragile peace. He stormed in, claiming her mother like property, leaving Du-han powerless as he dragged her away. She watched, fists clenched, as her mother's frail form vanished, a wound that wouldn't heal. In the garden, she swung her machete with fury, weeds falling like her fears. The old man watched, impressed by her strength, a quiet ally in her fight. She cradled her baby close, the child's warmth her only anchor, and rebuilt the shack with bloodied hands, defying the wind and rain. The militiamen arrived, papers in hand, but stayed to lift her burden. They worked side by side, sweat and silence binding them. Under the tree he shared fruit and a ride to the school. Ascending the bike, she clung to a thread of hope, wondering if his kindness held truth or a trap. Weeks turned to months, her mother's health fading, the hospital bills piling up. She took extra shifts, her body aching, her spirit fraying. The kind woman's motorcycle roared again, a lifeline through the dust. Her stepfather's grip tightened, pulling her mother back into the past, leaving Du-han to face the void alone. The garden became her battleground, each weed a foe she vanquished. The old man's words lingered, a rare balm. She cradled her child, a fragile light, and patched the shack, her hands raw but resolute. The militiaman returned, his help a quiet gift, wood cleared, bamboo tied, a bond forming in the heat. Under the tree he offered fruit, a moment of reprieve. The wind carried her baby's yawn, a fleeting calm. He rode her to the school, her hands on his shirt, a whisper of relief. His stories flowed, simple and true. She nodded, guarded. A spark ignited, genuine or guise. She couldn't tell, but the storm felt less lonely. Her mother's cough grew faint, the hospital a distant dream. Money dwindled, her shifts doubled, exhaustion her shadow. The kind woman's bite cut through the haze, a steady hand. Her stepfather's claim stole her mother again, a fresh scar on her soul. She hacked at the garden, each swing a cry, the old man's nod a quiet strength. Her baby slept in her arms, her reason to rise as she mended the shack, hands torn but fierce. The militiaman stayed, his labor a silent pact. Earth turned, frames bound, trust teetering in the sun.
Cuộc đời là một con đường dài, nơi giấc mơ hòa tan thực tại. Buồng bước chân ta bắt xây dần, bức tranh vẽ lên thử thách lớn. Những nỗi đau, niềm vui tạm bợ tạo nên muôn màu sắc cuộc đời. Dù cuộc sống đôi khi thử thách, những đam mê vẫn trực trào cháy. Hãy sống với đam mê cháy bỏng, đừng chờ đợi mà hãy thực hiện những khoảnh khắc quý giá lắm, đừng để thời gian trôi xa. Giữa bộn bề cuộc sống tìm chút bình yên, trong trái tim lặng lẽ nơi còn phiền. Giọt sương mai đọng trên lá xanh, đem lại niềm vui cuộc sống vắng tanh. Ánh sáng mặt trời dọi qua mây, dù mưa giông vẫn đang đong đầy. Trong lòng chứa đầy hy vọng, ngày mai sáng tươi chờ đợi ta. Bước đi trên con đường đầy hoa, dẫu khó khăn không lùi bước. Trong tim giữ trọn niềm tin, cuộc sống này mãi đẹp tươi.